Hello, my name is Dustin Turner, and I'm here to chat with you a little bit about myself, answer some questions that I've been offered to help smooth this video along, and what I'll be teaching at the Texas Yoga Retreat, October 18th, 19th, and 20th. It's going to be a super great time. One of the questions asked here is, what drew me to yoga, and how was your practice evolved over time? I started in yoga about 21 years ago. It'll be 22 eventually. And then it will be 23 after that, and 24, and on and on. I have a genetic condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It's a hypermobility condition that can create a huge host of effects, way too much and way too boring to get into right here. But it creates basically a lot of pain, fatigue in the body, and stress in different ways that can be really hard to manage from day to day. And I had tried a lot of different things for it, physical therapies, athletics like weightlifting, and nothing had worked. And then I finally learned to listen to my mother. She had been in yoga a number of years before I had ever gotten into it. And like most young men, I kind of treated it as, well, that's just my mom's thing. Let her go have it. She can enjoy it. I'm supportive of her. She was in her fun. But she kept trying to get me to go do it. And then one day I remember just my body was in a lot of pain, and to no one in particular, I was totally alone. I just said, fine, I'll go to yoga. I'll try. And I went to my first class, and I never left. I can't imagine what my life would have been like without it. And one of the things that happened there in that first class was, it was the first time, I think, in my life that I didn't maybe 100% understand what was happening to my body, that made me feel the way I felt, but allowed me a space to start feeling like there was a way I could understand it, and from that created an immense amount of relief for me. And that has been a major part of my practice. I think that's been the foundational understanding and principle of my practice since then, is that the space that we're creating on this mat should be the space to discover ourselves, not just conform to a pose shape, but use that pose shape to discover what is we're going through and how we choose to react or not react to it, and be in a popular term, higher form of self. And I really hope I get to share some of that with you this coming weekend. The other question, do you have any dry spells in your personal practice? If so, what do you do to keep it fresh? I have dry spells. I have dry spells regularly enough that it has been one of my own personal growths to even remove shame about having dry spells, and the feeling of not being good enough, especially as someone who's taught for 15, 16 years now, where I don't find the inspiration to be on the mat. But what ultimately actually brings me back to the mat is the words of a man who I consider one of the most compassionate, clear thinkers, and a man that I deeply admire as a yoga teacher, and I am grateful to say is my friend and teacher in these things. Gabriel Halpern told me once many years ago, and thank God I heard this as a young man, don't try to be inspiring, be inspired by what you do. And so whenever I find myself in those dry spells and I begin to lose that ability to feel what it is I'm in and going through, I start thinking about that. What can I be inspired to be in action of with myself, and get back on the mat? Not to correct myself, but to hear myself. And so that has given me a lot of personal space to even learn different ways to treat my body without it being about, well, I could do this pose and I get hurt. Not from the pose, but just life, or my body condition makes those not manageable. And instead of being uninspired by what's happened, find new inspiration to modify it, change it, and find that feeling back in myself again. It's really quite incredible how long that's stuck with me. And I'm always happy to share it with others. And I really look forward to sharing it with some of you. What are you passionate about learning and teaching right now? Well, of the 2 classes I'm offering, Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m. both of them, safe inversions Saturday morning. I'm pretty inspired about teaching inversions right now. I've really always enjoyed those forms of poses. And then Sunday, teaching overdone and undertaught, which is more about taking poses that we may have done hundreds of thousands of times, changing the angles, and then asking ourselves, especially in both of these classes, I may be good at this, but is this good for me? As a hypermobile person, it's been easy for me to engage into some of the quote-unquote advanced poses. Very deep folds, very deep bends, but almost all of them have led to hurt for me. And it's been an interesting journey to find inspiration in my health and my freedom from suffering is the priority on the mat. Not to look like a certain thing in a pose or to be able to do the pose at all or to be always grinding towards that end. But how am I grinding on this? How am I holding myself as I go through this? And while I may be good at it, is it good for me? To treat the act of practicing like that and how I apply it all to my life has personally always given me an immense amount of space to be more than just a good student, a good teacher, to be a good human. To be able to sit in and with myself, hear others when they need to sit in with themselves, and be in that communal space that I find the Texas Yoga Retreat is an incredibly exceptional place for, especially the location and how the organizers, Charles and Ellen, and all the others, I know I don't want to leave anyone out, created beautiful space for that to happen. I'm incredibly touched to be offered the chance to do so for a second year. So if you feel like you want to try and find that space for yourself, I'm so always glad to be a part of being a small part of making that space. So again, Saturday morning, if you want to do some inversions, some headstands, some shoulder balance, and time willing, and me being able to control my own immense amount of words and stuff I want to share, some forearm balance, variations on those poses, and maybe how they affect the arm. And again, you may be good at it, but is it good for you? And learning to feel that difference. And then Sunday morning, I don't say going back to basics, but go to basics and see how the shape of a pose may be simple. A forward fold is a hinge at the body, but each of us are such an individually complex person that we make it complex, and that's the beauty of it, exploring the depth of each one in it. And as a teacher, it is my absolute greatest joy to get to do that, and it's so touching to get to share that with you. So bring some questions. If you want to ask me about them in class, please feel free to. I'm not there just to preach the gospel and the great word of doing it this way, but I am there to cultivate, create with you. Thank you so much. I'll see you in October.